Flying towards Cape Town, our teams are desperate to make the most of the wind before the last roll of the dice at the finish line just ahead. Welcome to the Ocean Race Show, where Race Control has our teams estimated to be finishing sometime around Sunday the 12th in the afternoon. But as you will hear, that ETA has a wide margin for error. Now, in this show, our last before the finish, we're going to be taking a look back at the past as well as diving into what is still to come down the racetrack. But first, let's have a look at what got us here. And we left our boats dealing with nosediving in tricky conditions and not wanting to take their foot off the throttle.
It's hard because the wind shifts just a couple degrees and your attitude relative to the waves changes with it. So, you could go from sailing along, no problem, and you get a 5-degree wind shift, and now all of a sudden the boat's going down the waves, or it's side 2, and you need a little bit more riding moment, or you need to put, use the sails, or so there's a number of different tools to keep the bow up. We have foil extension. You can just put more extension in the water. We have rake. You can rake forward, help lift the bow. The keel actually has tilt on the pin, so you use more keel. It actually creates more lift for the boat. You can change the sail plan, so you can ease the front to get the bow up. Sometimes you can put something smaller in the front. For this boat in particular, you can actually reduce the sail area in the back as well. And then we have this wonderful aft ballast tank, which is filling right now. And we've used it so much this trip, the fasteners, the heel coils, are completely exploded. So as the water is coming into the back of the boat, which, if you don't know anything about sailing, it sounds kind of stupid, like we're trying to sink because we're bringing water into the boat to make it faster. But we have managed to explode a bunch of these fasteners. So while we're bringing water into the boat, we basically have these little fastener geysers. And that's cute. But what's not cute would be if we blew this entire door off. So once we start getting good geyser action, I'm going to stand on it. Hey, she's got some thrust on.
Using the sprinklers to know when to close the ballast tank inlet is a very analog way of sailing a digital boat, but it's worked for them, keeping the stern down and the bow up, reducing the nosedives. We've heard the sailors discuss the warning signs for these nosedives, and the most reliable one seems to be the noise. As the foil lifts you up and you get faster and faster, the speed increases and the whine starts getting louder and louder, and something's got to give. And see if you can tell when that moment is. There's a clip here of Team Wholesome PRB, and they go for a relatively comfortable nosedive, but see if you can hear it coming.
No, it's quite bad sea state. Very gusty winds, like from 15 knots to 25 knots, and a boat which is just unmanageable. A lot of doing that.
And it wasn't just nosedives for Team Wholesome PRB. That night, they had an obstacle that seemed to loom in front of them right in the dark.
Someone put an island on our route. We had to try and go around an island. So we woke up Tom. I said, Tom, there's an island. He's like, yeah, I know there's an island. What are we going to do about it? I don't know, it's an island. So I went around the island. We wake up Georgia and said, come take a photo of the island. She said, it's dark, I can't. So she went back to bed.
Gough Island was the obstacle that Sam was talking about, and Team Wholesome BRB had to avoid it to the north, sailing almost dead downwind in 20 knots before they could head back southeast, sailing parallel with all the teams hunting the best wind. Gulio Environment Team Europe was still behind to the west with Biotherm in fourth, but still just about holding onto the pack in front. Team Wholesome PRB were in third, with 11th Hour Racing Team in second, and capping off an incredible last few days, Team Milizia in first as the fleet bounced off the ice limit, heading back to the northeast. The battle for first place turned into a drag race, with 11th Hour Racing Team hard on the stern of Team Milizia, and while only 20 to 30 miles separated the two leading boats, the wind for each team was very different, lifting Team Milizia further north, while 11th Hour held a better course, sailing over the same water just 1 hour later. This opened up a separation between the two, increasing the chance of 11th Hour Racing Team finding better breeze as Team Milizia held on to first for the moment.
Yeah, no, I feel pressure. I can feel it as the boat starts to catch us up now. I can feel the almost frustration, I would say, you know, wanting to stay in the front, but you know, we're going to do everything we can to stay in between the finish line and the other boats. So yeah, I can feel it.
Will Harris feeling the tension, and it's not just those on board who are nervous. Boris Herman, off for this leg due to injury, has had to watch from the shorelines where no sailor wants to be, but for the moment he has reasons to smile.
Yeah, it is fantastic to see the team now doing well, being in the lead. And it makes these legs so interesting. It's probably one of the most interesting legs with the doldrums, the different climate zones the fleet has to sail through. And now again with a huge high pressure ridge in front of Cape Town, so they will all come much closer together, I think. It's far from decided here. For me personally, knowing that the boat works, we can compete with the best democracy in the world, with the best teams out there that have themselves prepared for a long time and that have some of the best sailors in the world on their boats. I mean, that is a huge satisfaction to see that. A very clean work of Nico on the weather, looks like, and a very good teamwork with good leadership from Will.
It's been a good performance, but of course the leg is not over yet. But Boris Herman wasn't really surprised at how well Will Harris has performed on this leg.
Well, we all know him as someone rock solid. Also very good at not getting disappointments too close to him, not letting them get too close to him. We were doing a TJV together where we went all the way west and it didn't pay off. It wasn't the right choice, but he was not really affected by that. He kept pushing the boat as if we were leading. And so this is a particular strength of him to be that stable. That's very good.
The conditions are easing up for those in the front, but there are benefits to the wind getting less and the waves getting more comfortable on board.
I do 3 hours straight. How does it feel? Very good. No noise, flat waters. And when you wake up, sun, Irene, Will with sunglasses like a bogus, a BG.
Better sleep, but this ease in the wind means the 200-odd kilos of sails the sailors lashed to the stern needs to be moved forward to reset the trim of the boat. The work continues. For Guyot Environment Team Europe in 5th, they could enjoy the windier conditions a little longer, if indeed enjoy is the right term.
Are you driving the boat or the boat is driving you?
I'm not sure. I think it's 50-50. I'm definitely not in charge here. If you're on the back of a long wave, you go really fast. Days are longer for sure. 2-3 hours longer than before. And the light down here reminds me a little bit to winter days.
Whatever the results from this leg, the teams have got an awful lot they can take from it, whether it's points to their overall scores or maybe lessons learned about what's working on board. But for Annie Lush on board Guyot Environment Team Europe, she's certain that we cannot rule out any boat, even hers, that's in last place for the moment.
We're still in this, I think, and I can't wait to see what happens over the next 24 hours. I mean, for us, we've got to hope that this ridge is big enough that the guys at the front really stop, those front 314s. But we're still pushing hard. And I have distinct memories of this from the 2014-15 race with Team SCA. We were over 200 miles behind Mapfre and sort of ground them down in the last few days into Cape Town. And we had this plan that they're going to get stuck under Table Mountain and we're going to sail around them. It was like a dream. We sort of made it up. And then it actually happened. And we sailed them out Mapfre and ended up beating them into the finish line. So I've told my team about this. I have a big belief in Table Mountain. I think it could do a lot for our team, and I hope we can do this all over again. So Holcim, Malithia, 11th hour, go and sail under Table Mountain, and we're going to go around the outside. That's the plan.
Annie Lush hoping her team continues to push hard because there are big risks for the leaders. So what does Team Militia do? They are in first place at this point, but of course they're about to sail off that ridge of breeze into the light winds. Now they could jibe south, but that would mean giving up the lead and potentially showing their hand to Charlie Enright on board 11th Hour Racing Team. It's a tricky moment and it takes careful planning.
It's super hard to cross behind the reservoir. Maybe to cross.
No, but
No, it's not. It's what we expected.
I think it's even good to trap them a bit. Because they what?
At least we stay. I don't want to be the windward boat.
Yes.
Almost it's a rule. Never the windward boat. Because there is no windward.
And we like to confuse them a little bit too.
Yes.
This is the mental game we play now.
I think if we see them, we peel for the J3 just.
Yeah. Just J3.
But that's why they are slow. Okay, so we can continue them.
Yeah.
For Team Militia, the decision to do what would be a brave jibe south was made easier when their speed started to suffer compared with 11th Hour Racing Team, signalling that they were better off being smart and staying on the front. The jibe was such a turn that they were sailing away from Cape Town, adding miles between them and the finish, as well as giving up the lead to dart behind Charlie Enright and his team. And it wasn't just one boat they were gifting. Team Holcim PRB were 60 miles behind the Germans, but Team Militia came down from the north and crossed just 3 miles behind, seemingly content to sail into third. So a new order was established, and then it was the turn of 11th Hour Racing Team to sail off the front, running too fast off the strip of wind. They chose not to jibe, but rather headed up to a tighter angle, returning the speeds to the high teens, with Team Holcim PRB hot on their heels. They could only stick to this strategy for so long before slowing and knowing jibing south was worth the damage. Giving up the new lead was hard, and they flinched before ducking behind Team Holcim PRB and lining up in third place. Here it was clear that Team Militia had been playing the long game, and with the better wind, faster speed, Will Harris cruised in from the south back into the lead, but this time to leeward and still riding the front. This was a tricky nighttime game of making tactical losses for stronger navigational positions, and behind them the others are finding ways to catch up. Biotherm in fourth are closing down hard.
700 miles to go.
Yes. Still cold tonight. Probably better tomorrow. And the more we're gonna be close to the finish line, less wind we're gonna have. So tomorrow, today it's probably the fastest day, but after will be slow. We hope to reduce the distance with the leaders. Probably we will use other strategy. Because they left open the possibility to go straight to the finish line, so we will try.
The possibility of sailing straight to the finish. It's an interesting choice, and this is because the boats behind will be having very different conditions when they sail through the same stretch of water that our boats in front have already exited. And there are still an awful lot of twists and turns to go. Let's have a look at exactly what's coming down the track. Right now, we've got Guyot Environment Team Europe at the back, but riding this beautiful front to chase down the others. And the problem for everyone else is what is waiting between them and Cape Town. We put the rum lines on here. This is the straight lines that they would sail direct to the finish if they didn't want to do any deviation at all. But they're going to have to, because right here, well, one, there's hardly any wind, but also the wind that there is from a very unhelpful angle indeed. They will be going very slow. There's also some big current in here as well. So we will be really expecting our teams to be pushing way further to the east, perhaps even to the southeast before coming back up to Cape Town, heading west. We could see some very big, bold moves to try and stay ahead of the weather. But one thing's for sure, we are going to see our fleet bunching up really close together, and our sailors know it too.
I'm working on the routines, I'm working on, and it's nice, I've done routines for all boats. But you know, always by curiosity, it's nice to know, and we are all finishing in 10 minutes. What kind of sport are we doing? You know, when we do 20 days at sea, you push for every meters, and at the end, everything is decided by the weather forecast. It's like that. So we know sailing is like that. we'll see.
And what's the tactics tomorrow?
Going fast. The only one.
A tricky sport indeed, and those final twists and turns are going to play out over the next 24, 48 hours before our teams get to that finish line, predicted to be Sunday afternoon. But anything could happen in that final shutdown of the breeze, potentially right up to the finish line. We will be bringing you all the action from the import race and, of course, the leg start for leg 3 from Cape Town, and you're going to find all of that on Eurosport. But for the moment, you're going to want to keep your eyes glued to the tracker, just like our sailors out on the racecourse, fighting for every last mile.
And now this little private gust here, we take it.
And it's Guyot Environment Team Europe coming into the shot as we look down the line. This looks like an easy maneuver, simply turning around and heading back the way you go.
The first 20 minutes super hectic, and then it gets a bit more easy.
Good concentration, so we executed exactly like we wanted it. So I'm happy. And now this little private gust here, we take it.
Too close with all team at the moment.
My taste, but
okay.
in reality we are going a bit backward because Cape Town is there, but then we have to round a bit to the west first, cross the along the Brazilian coast there.
190 miles from Cabo Verde. We were still feeling this night the shadow of the islands. So everybody has been playing with the wind rotations in order to go as much south as possible.
Weed, so I guess it's lots and lots of it. So the whole deck's covered in it. Yeah, there's plenty over there.
Next jibe, straight to the doldrums. You can lose more by driving, but you can win a lot also. Is it too risky or not? We'll see. The future only will know.
We think that 11th hour has followed our jibe.
Right. I shouldn't be stressed by that. It's a game. It's a game. Well, an important one.
Vous allez où?
À la mine.
Sunrise at latitude 0.
And we are like first
A little cheers to Neptune.
We know those guys are there. We don't know where biotherm is. Stop it!
all the way south until we come back up. Give them a hand, completely sold it now.
Allez.
mile. It's magical.
The race is on, I think.
Jockey pull. Okay, hold.
Oh fuck, to destroy the spinnaker now.
Going fast to Cape Town.
Looking pretty for Cape Town.
Still 12 miles from the finish. They seem excited. We're not yet.
February 20th, 1962.
Godspeed, John Glenn. 2, 1, 0. Roger, the clock is operating. We're underway.
Astronaut John Glenn becomes the first American to orbit the Earth, lifting off aboard the Mercury space capsule Friendship 7. 2003. A fire during a nightclub concert in West Warwick, Rhode Island, kills 100 people and injures about 200 others. Pyrotechnics for the rock band Great White sparked the fire, igniting flammable foam lining the club's walls and ceiling. The club's owners and the band's former tour manager later plead guilty to involuntary manslaughter charges. 1927.
They call me Mr. Tibbs.
Actor Sidney Poitier, whose roles include In the Heat of the Night and Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, is born in Miami. And 1998.
When I stepped on the ice, I had a feeling like, I knew what the Olympics was about. I have that feeling of just like pure joy.
American Tara Lipinski becomes the youngest gold medalist in the Winter Olympics. The 15-year-old clinches that honor when she wins the ladies' figure skating title in Nagano, Japan. Today in history, February 20th, Carlotta Bradley, The Associated Press.
Welcome back in our studio, and in today's news,